Welcome back to English Mastery Podcast. I'm Vey, and I'm here with my amazing co-host James. Today's episode is going to be a game changer for so many of our listeners because we're tackling something that honestly affects almost every English learner I've ever met. James, you know what I'm talking about, right? That feeling when you know English, you understand it, you can read it, but when it comes to actually speaking, there's this wall that just appears. You freeze up, you second-guess yourself, you feel like your mind goes blank even though you have the vocabulary and grammar knowledge. It's so frustrating. And what's interesting is that this isn't really about lacking English skills, it's about confidence. Today, we're going to dive deep into why this happens and, more importantly, how to overcome it. We're going to explore the mental barriers that stop us from using the English we already know, and I'm excited to share some practical strategies that can literally transform how you feel about speaking English. This isn't just theory either. These are techniques that have helped thousands of learners break through their speaking anxiety and start expressing themselves authentically in English.
Oh, absolutely, Vey. You've hit on something so crucial here. You know, I've been teaching English for years, and I can't tell you how many students come to me saying, James, I know the grammar, I understand everything when I listen, but I just can't speak confidently. And here's what's fascinating. Often these students already have incredible English knowledge. They're not lacking vocabulary or grammar rules. What they're missing is that inner confidence to actually use what they know. It's like having a beautiful car in your garage, but being too nervous to drive it. You know what I mean? That's actually a perfect analogy. So today, we want to flip this whole mindset upside down. Most people think, oh, when I become more fluent, then I'll be confident. But actually, it works the opposite way. When you build confidence first, that's when you start accessing and using all the English you already have stored in your brain. We're going to talk about the specific mental blocks that hold people back, like perfectionism, fear of making mistakes, imposter syndrome, and limiting beliefs. And yeah, we're going to give you some real, actionable steps you can take starting today to build that unshakable speaking confidence.
Exactly. And James, let's start with probably the biggest confidence killer of all, perfectionism. Oh my goodness, this is such a huge one. So many English learners have this belief that their English needs to be absolutely perfect before they can speak. Every sentence needs to be grammatically flawless, every word pronounced like a native speaker, every pause perfectly timed. But here's the reality check. Perfection doesn't exist. Even native speakers make mistakes, use filler words, stumble over their thoughts, and have moments where they can't find the right word. That's just being human. But when English learners hold themselves to this impossible standard of perfection, what happens? They either don't speak at all, or they speak with this constant inner critic running in their head, constantly judging and editing everything they say. It's exhausting. And the ironic thing is that this pursuit of perfection actually makes your English sound less natural, not more natural. When you're so focused on getting everything perfect, you lose that authentic, conversational flow that makes communication enjoyable and effective. I always tell my students, your goal isn't to sound like a textbook, it's to communicate your thoughts and connect with other people. And connection happens through authenticity, not perfection.
Vey, that's such a powerful point about authenticity versus perfection. And you know what feeds into this perfectionism? The fear of making mistakes. This is probably the biggest barrier I see with English learners. And honestly, I think this fear often starts in traditional classroom settings, where mistakes are marked with red pen, where getting something wrong means losing points or feeling embarrassed in front of classmates. So learners develop this mindset that mistakes are bad, mistakes are something to avoid at all costs. But here's what I want everyone listening to understand. Mistakes are not your enemy. They're actually your best teacher. When you make a mistake and someone corrects you, or when you realize you said something differently than you intended, that's your brain creating a stronger neural pathway. That's literally how learning happens. The most confident English speakers I know are the ones who've made thousands of mistakes and learned from each one. They've developed this mindset where they think, oh, I made a mistake? Cool, now I know something new. Instead of, oh no, I made a mistake, I'm terrible at English. It's such a different energy, isn't it? When you're not afraid of mistakes, you speak more freely, you try new words, you experiment with expressions, and that's when real fluency develops. So let's practice reframing mistakes as learning opportunities, not as failures.
Oh, James, that reframe is so important. And speaking of mindset shifts, let's talk about another major confidence blocker, limiting beliefs about our own potential. This one is really close to my heart because I see it crushing so many talented learners. What I mean is someone might have a goal to speak English fluently and confidently, but at the same time, they have all these beliefs running in the background like, but I don't live in an English-speaking country, so it's impossible. Or, I'm not smart enough. Or, I didn't start learning young enough. Or, people from my country just aren't good at English. These limiting beliefs are like having one foot on the gas pedal and one foot on the brake. You want to move forward, but you're sabotaging yourself at the same time. And here's the thing about these beliefs. They become self-fulfilling prophecies. If you believe you can't improve, you won't take the actions necessary to improve. You'll procrastinate, you'll make excuses, you'll avoid speaking opportunities. But if you believe growth is possible for you, you'll seek out conversations, you'll practice regularly, you'll push through discomfort. The beautiful thing is that belief is a choice. You can choose to focus on all the people who've successfully learned English as adults, who've become confident speakers despite starting later in life, who've achieved their goals even without living in English-speaking countries. There are millions of success stories out there. Why not let yours be one of them?
Absolutely. And you know what's connected to those limiting beliefs? Something called imposter syndrome. Now, this is really interesting because imposter syndrome affects high achievers in every field, not just English learning. But it's particularly relevant for our listeners because, let me explain it this way. Imposter syndrome is when you have evidence of your competence and success, but you don't believe it's real. You feel like you're fooling people, like you're going to be found out as a fraud at any moment. So for English learners, this might show up as having a good conversation with someone and then thinking, they probably think I speak English well, but if they really knew how limited my vocabulary is or how much I struggle with grammar, they'd realize I'm just pretending. Does that sound familiar to anyone listening? Haha, I bet it does. The thing about imposter syndrome is that it prevents you from celebrating your progress and acknowledging how far you've come. Instead of thinking, wow, I just had a 30-minute conversation in English and we understood each other perfectly, you think, but I made some mistakes and I couldn't think of that one word, so it doesn't really count. This pattern keeps you feeling inadequate no matter how much you improve. The antidote to imposter syndrome is learning to recognize your achievements, no matter how small, and giving yourself credit for your progress. Every conversation you have in English, every mistake you make and learn from, every moment you understand something new, those are all real accomplishments worthy of celebration.
James, that's such a crucial insight about celebrating small wins. And you know what? All of these confidence challenges we've talked about, perfectionism, fear of mistakes, limiting beliefs, imposter syndrome, they're all interconnected. They feed off each other and create this cycle where you feel stuck. But here's the amazing news. Confidence is absolutely a skill you can develop. It's not something you're just born with or without. Just like you can improve your grammar or expand your vocabulary, you can build your speaking confidence through specific practices and mindset work. And when you do this inner work, something magical happens. You start accessing all the English knowledge that was already there, but was blocked by fear and anxiety. I've seen students who didn't learn a single new grammar rule or vocabulary word, but they worked on their confidence, and suddenly they were having conversations they never thought possible. They were expressing complex ideas, sharing their opinions, even making jokes in English. That's the power of removing those mental barriers. So for our listeners who are feeling inspired right now, who are thinking, yes, I want to build this confidence, here are some practical steps you can start with today. First, practice self-compassion. Talk to yourself the way you'd talk to a good friend who's learning English. Second, celebrate every small victory. Understood a movie without subtitles? That's amazing. Had a brief chat with a cashier? Fantastic. Third, practice speaking regularly in low-pressure situations. Record yourself reading aloud. Have conversations with yourself in the mirror. Join online language exchange groups where everyone's learning.
Those are excellent practical steps, Vey. And I want to add something really important here. Building confidence is not just about English, it has a ripple effect into other areas of your life. When you develop the courage to speak up in English, you might find yourself more confident in job interviews, more willing to ask for what you want, more comfortable expressing your opinions in any language. I've had students tell me that working on their English confidence helped them get promotions, start new relationships, even pursue dreams they'd been putting off for years. It's incredible how much our self-belief in one area can transform our entire life experience. Now, I know we've covered a lot of ground today, and some listeners might be feeling a bit overwhelmed, thinking, this all sounds great, but where do I actually start? And that's totally normal. Change can feel overwhelming when you're looking at the big picture. But remember, you don't have to transform everything overnight. Pick one small thing and start there. Maybe it's giving yourself permission to make mistakes, or maybe it's spending 5 minutes a day practicing speaking without judging yourself. Small, consistent actions create massive transformations over time. The key is to start somewhere and be patient with yourself as you grow. Your confidence will build naturally as you prove to yourself, through your actions, that you're capable of more than you thought possible.
Practice examples foreshadowing.
Building confidence phrases.
I'm learning and growing every day. Making mistakes helps me improve my English. I have valuable things to share in English.
Overcoming fear.
I choose to focus on communication, not perfection. Every conversation is practice, not a test. I'm proud of how far I've come.
Positive self-talk.
I'm brave enough to try, even if I'm not perfect. My English is good enough to communicate my ideas. I deserve to express myself confidently.
All right, beautiful English learners. We hope this episode has given you a new perspective on building speaking confidence.
Remember, you already have so much English knowledge inside you. Sometimes you just need to give yourself permission to use it imperfectly.
Confidence isn't about never feeling nervous, it's about speaking up despite the nerves. You've got this, and we believe in you completely.
Keep practicing, keep growing, and most importantly, keep being kind to yourself on this journey.
This is English Mastery Podcast. Until next time, speak with confidence and remember that your voice matters. Take care.